There we go. What's going on, fellow art warriors? Welcome back to another Art Friends interview. It's been quite a while since we've done one of these, but I'm really excited to this week have Nikos Gaitanopoulos. I try my best. Gaitanopoulos. Another fellow Greek here. So I'm really excited to have him here and talk to him. He's actually a teacher, professor, whatever, instructor at Teesside University, where Oliver goes. So yeah, it'll be really fun to talk to him about his teaching experience. I really want to talk to you as well about that KFC job you did as well, because that's pretty funny. And yeah, you've got some awesome art, so I'm excited to dive in.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, and thank you, Oliver, for inviting me as well. So yeah, and good job. You almost got the name. So good job for that.
I try my best. I should be a better Greek.
You're good to go.
But yeah, all right. Let's kind of dive in. You want to give us kind of just like a brief overview history of?
Quick,
go ahead, Oliver.
Before that, we got that quick question about the game. What game world you would want to be in?
Oh yeah. Let's
yeah.
So Nikos, if you could be in any video game world, what would it be?
Okay, so all the worlds I like are the worlds I don't want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like Dark Souls and I like The Witcher and I like all these terrifying games that I don't want to be in there. It's horrible. But I've played Lord of the Rings, so I could say I could be in the Sire and it would be fine.
Yeah, that's true. Or if you were in the Witcher world, you could be a Witcher yourself. So therefore, hopefully, you wouldn't have to be as afraid. But
or you know what? I've got a good one. I could be in the world of Ori and the Blind Forest, which is such a beautiful place where you can chill and draw, and it would be so nice. And especially with the last game where they expanded with everything, and you had the water pools and the swamps and everything. So yeah, it's a wonderful place, and yeah, I could be there.
That's an awesome answer. Nice. So yeah, why don't you give us like a brief rundown on your artistic history? Like, were you always an artist? Was this something you always wanted to do? When did you come to the UK from being in Greece? All of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so I will start with a very boring thing that I was drawing when I was a kid.
Sure.
And everybody does that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing well until, at some point I started actually drifting away around when I entered high school. We don't have middle school, so high school starts around 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I started drifting away from it. I would draw occasionally, but only, I was doing the graffiti stuff and all these cool kid things that weren't cool. And I wasn't really connected with it until at some point, I think a friend of mine got a sketchbook and I got jealous. So I was thinking, oh, that's cool. I can draw in there. And at the same time, I started writing. I started writing stories. So I think I started writing the stories and illustrating them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was spending more and more time with that. So I go to my parents and tell them, okay, because I didn't know what a concept artist was. I had all this huge connection. Oh, that's how it happened. I got this book from John Howe, and I was so inspired by his work that I was thinking, oh, this is a thing. People can do that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't exist in Greece. So I go to my parents and tell them, because I had never thought of going away from Greece.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want to be an author.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother tells me, you can't be an author because authors don't make money. So it's quite right. I mean, the writing scene in Greece, while pretty good in terms of talent, is pretty hectic in terms of money. So I tell them, okay, I will be an architect then, because I didn't know there were other options.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, and fine art, was too avant-garde for me.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't resonate. So I started studying for architecture school, and I started getting art lessons because you need to sit art exams when you enter architecture school. So I did that, and I got into architecture school. But like the day one I got in there, I realized I wasn't happy It was an immensely hard school, and
was there
while
something
you,
specific about it that you didn't really like or that didn't stick with you?
mm, I think, okay, first class was history of architecture, and that thing was amazing. We had a very good teacher, Manolis Kores, and I was really inspired by him because he goes in here and starts immediately talking about the pyramids, but he has such a good knowledge of the subject that it feels like you are there in the pyramids with him.
Yeah.
And this was great. But then you get some teachers that were telling you that you should breathe and eat and breathe architecture, and that didn't resonate with me because I wanted to do architecture, but I was really interested in studying old buildings and old constructs and how these things came to be. I was interested in the history of the stuff, not as much in creating modern buildings that I didn't really like. So there was already a point of impact there, and it started only growing. And I was thinking of quitting, actually. And then I decided and made a conscious choice that I could either, try and join a graphic art school which did not offer such a good education. They would offer, good education in terms of, learning how to draw or maybe concept art, but they wouldn't give you an academic background or any general knowledge that I really appreciate. And at the same time, or I could stay in architecture school. So I said, okay, it's going to be very, very hard, but I will stay. And it took 7 years to finish. Like it was really hard because the actual time to finish the school is 5 years, but you have 2 diploma projects. So immediately it sorts up to 5.5. And then I took half a semester off where I went on to Erasmus in Hamburg. So that's another semester. And I worked for 6 months on my first concept art job as a board game concept artist. So yeah, that was actually, I was drawing in the meantime.
Yeah,
but
I was just going to ask.
I grew up without internet. So actually, until I was 18 years old, I didn't even know, what was happening outside my room in a way. My only connection were the books that I would read and the people that I would meet. But other than that, that's it. And I didn't really connect with the concept art world until I actually graduated from university when I was 25, and I got into Teesside University in the UK, where I did my master's in concept art. And that's where it all begins, essentially, because I ended up being in a very, very talented group. We had some amazing artists working with us: Lorenzo Daguano, Mattias Capuvari, Daniele Sant'Andrea, Cleo Millet, and so many other good artists were there. And just by sitting next to them and seeing produce all this beautiful work all the time, it immediately made me realize that I was not good. I was a competent artist, but that's it.
Yeah.
Nothing more than that. And I had, a falling apart moment. Like, I couldn't. So I started working like very, very, very hard. And I was all the time. I was also working on my book. I never gave up on writing. I was writing all the time, nonstop, from that point when I was 15 up to that point when I was 25. And I started writing and drawing. Like, that was the only thing I was doing for a year, and socializing with my friends. I never gave that up because it's important. And I graduated. I had become a better artist. So 3 months after graduating, I got into an indie game company. I worked from home. They asked for a visual upgrade for their game. They had the assets, but they wanted them upgraded. So I started doing that. And it was quite a good practice. I was also very lucky because it was an indie studio that actually paid.
Yeah.
So I
few
got
and
paid
far
for
between, right?
Yeah, I got actually paid for my first work, and that felt really good. And kept designing for small video games. 3 of them actually got published on Play Store back then. I think most of them have been taken down, but at that point, my work was out there.
Yeah.
And I stayed in the UK until 2017. Yeah, and then I had to move back to Greece for something's happened, and I had to move back to Greece for personal reasons, and that's where things started going up and down at the same time because. At first, I actually got some people to notice my book. I started taking part in writing competitions and art competitions, started winning. Actually, it was a very good period, 2017, in terms of contests, because I won like 4 or 5 prizes at that time,
Nice.
like within 3 or 4 months.
That's awesome.
That was in Greece, but it was a huge recognition because it helped me a lot. People started knowing my work. And I got a contract for my book. Was it? No, it was in 2018 that I got the contract. But when I won the competitions, I was actually taken in the army as well, because you have to go to do 1 year national service in Greece.
Yeah.
And I had to spend 8 months there, where I learned oil painting because I told my higher ups that I could draw them if they let me. So I would exchange guard duty and stuff like that.
That's so funny.
And then I got out of the army in 2018, got the contract for my book, and then I was hired by the most unlikely place, an advertising company. That's where I did the KFC ad.
Nice.
And I was hired both as an artist and the copywriter. They mostly used me for my writing because they had a lot of artists there, but whenever there was painting to be done or sketching to be done, they would call me to do that. So I did storyboarding, and I learned how to build frames quickly, which is very useful. And of course, I learned to write also better. And it's funny because when you work in an environment that is a little bit different, like you think of concept art and we think of illustration and we think that's it. But there are so many other aspects around that can teach us so many things about the thing we do. And one thing that you learned in advertisement is about impact. About how you need your one image or your few words to have as much impact as possible, because you might be an amazing author or an amazing artist, but if you can't get your work to have that initial impact, especially in a social media world, then it's hard to get.
Yeah.
And I did the KFC job there. I stayed for 9 months, and then I said I didn't feel, for all the things I learned, I never felt connected with advertisement. I did that because it was a job. So I was saving some money and actually said, okay, I will go freelance. So I started illustrating books after that for my publisher, other books from the same publishing house.
Gotcha.
Because, you can use them, multiple ways. They will help out. And I started working on more illustrations. And that summer, I started attending cons as well, and it was going well with the audience. And then that summer, actually, I got a message from one of my friends teaching at the university, and they told me, hey, there is a position open, you can apply. I applied, and there I am.
Nice. So how long have you been there now?
Right now, I'm teaching for 1.5 years, so it will be 2 years in October.
Gotcha. Nice. Cool. So that's awesome. You have a very unconventional sort of path you took, and that's why it's always interesting having people on this show, because I'm pretty sure, Oliver, right? No 2 artists we've talked to have had the same path, or at least a similar path. It's like everybody has done these very strange, odd jobs to kind of get their way to where they are today, and it's really cool to hear about it. But the first thing that stuck out to me that I wanted to ask you about is when you were talking about going to the architecture school and kind of transitioning out of that, you were saying you were still drawing on the side and stuff like that. Two things. What was kind of motivating you to get back into that? I guess you said the John Howe book and stuff like that. But also, were you learning digital or were you doing traditional art at the time?
I actually got into digital art when I was 23.
Okay.
I had never used the tablet before that, never used Photoshop. Whenever an art project from school would ask us to do something, I would always do it traditionally. So I always feel that whenever I'm drawing with digital, I'm actually much worse than with
Yeah.
red.
Were
Yeah.
you painting as well, or were you just drawing before?
So I was mostly drawing because I had a bad experience with art actually, and I had a teacher who came in like first. Actually, universities in Greece run a little bit differently than other countries. So our teacher was absent most of the first semester, and we just did drawing on our own. We wouldn't go in
Gotcha.
class, we just draw. And then she comes in at the end of the semester, and she looks at our work, and she might have been right, but she told us essentially, "Oh my God, you're all so horrible."
Oh my God. That's so bad.
Yeah, and it hurt because art was the one thing that I was proud of.
Sure.
I was thinking that what, I might not be the best architect in the school, but I can draw and I can write, and I feel good about that. And it was such a gut punch,
Yeah. I can
And the
imagine.
thing is, she actually would teach us useful things after that. But my mind had shut down, and I would not listen to anything she would teach us because of that initial insult. I think she's a good artist and she knows a lot of things. But that thing, that you're all useless. Like, no, I'm not useless. I just have not been taught art like in high art level.
Sure.
Yeah, so
when you started to transition into digital art, like, how did you learn about that? How did you learn how to get better at digital painting? Did you have any guides or anything like that?
okay, so it's a little bit foggy. That's why you take
Sure.
Okay, so I think it was when I joined that video game company. Or a few months before that, I think somebody contracted me on the internet. It was DeviantArt then, and people would ask, "Hey, would you do a job for me?" So
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I went to my parents because I was studying a lot, so I didn't have any time to work, and I would be completely dependent on them financially, and ask them if they could give me money for a tablet, like a very poor quality tablet.
Yeah.
And I got this first tablet that was the bamboo pen and pad, whatever.
Yeah.
So this is not a good tablet, and I got that one, and because it took some time, you had to order it. It wouldn't, just you wouldn't find any shops art materials like that. And I actually had done my first digital painting using the mouse. I just scanned my drawing.
Yeah.
And then I started using the lasso tool.
I remember doing that as well.
Flat colored, soft brushes to create the shadows, and that's it.
Yep.
But my client liked it so much that he was really happy with that. So when I got the tablet, I started looking into digital artists on DeviantArt, and then started looking at videos. And then I had, the whole brush thing when you go around and ask everybody for brushes because you think that brushes make it work. So I had that. And then I started, training more and more and more, but also always looking at my traditional references and traditional artists, because that always, connected more with me. And I started learning more and more. And then I got accepted in the university, and then I started literally asking my friends, how do you do that? Can you please help me do that? And I was asking a lot. And in time, I trained more and more. And I still keep training. I think I'm not too good with digital art, but yeah, we'll see.
I'd beg to differ, but I think you've got some awesome work.
Thanks a lot.
The other thing that stuck out to me too was when you were talking about when you went to Teesside to learn there, and you were saying all my friends are better than me, blah blah blah. I think it's really, I know you said it kind of got you down at first, but it is admirable that you kind of got to that point where you're like, nah, I'm gonna get good. I'm just gonna figure out how to do this and get good. And I think that's a really great lesson for people, because there just is so many places you can compare yourself online, and it's hard not to look at these like extraordinary artists and be like, oh, there's no way I'm gonna get there. you just kind of have to tell yourself like, all right, one step at a time. What's one thing I can do today to kind of get to the next level? And also, like you did, Nikos, like make sure you're continuously surrounding yourself by artists to motivate you, and treat it more as motivation as opposed to like demoralization. So
Yeah, I mean, I get demoralized, and we shouldn't shy away from that. I think, especially with the internet, and as you mentioned, so many amazing artists out there. It's very easy to get demoralized because they are legends in that way, because you don't connect with them, you don't see them as people, you don't see them, doing mistakes and erasing that mistake. They just put the amazing ready piece up there, and you just scroll, oh my god, and then you go in fetal position in the bathroom and cry about yourself. But the university offered the other thing, where there were amazing artists, but they were next to you, and you could see them in action, and the distance became smaller, and the how could I say that? And the disconnection disappeared because you connected with them. They were people, and you could see them when working. You could see, for example, Daniele doing all this very expressive color work that he does, and Lorenzo being always so precise when he worked. Whenever I looked at Lorenzo, he was like a surgeon, and just by looking at that, you started to learn in a way that was like, absorbing from them without actually learning. They were not teaching, but you learned.
Sure.
And I think that if you surround yourselves, as you said, by a good group, even if they are not great artists, but a good group that does their best and supports each other, because they were very friendly people and still my friends, and I love them. And if you surround yourself by people like that, I think it helps, because you push each other. And it's funny because Lorenzo told me at some point that I helped him, and I was thinking, how? And he told me, it's like, how? We help each other. We just don't realize how. So it's important we do that. We surround ourselves by people who like what they do and want to push it, even if it's not art sometimes. Just, people who like what they do and they are interested and curious and motivated.
Yeah, I can, sorry, just very jumping on quickly, because I can relate to that, because when I was in my previous school in Vancouver, you build this connection with people where it's not always about the skill level, and we start to compare and stuff. It's there's always something that someone's good at and another thing they're not so good at, and then the other person will help them out in that situation. And it's that kind of relationship, I think, is really important to build. And it's just, for me, it's a shame during like COVID time, like people can't, because when you're like physically there, you can be, you can say, like, can you help me with this, or can you look at this quickly? And I can totally relate to that. So yeah, I just wanted to put that in there too.
For sure. One thing I wanted to touch on as well with you, Nikos, is your style, because you have a very particular kind of mood to your pieces, and I was just wondering what influences you in terms of that mood.
Okay. Because I have been asked that, and I still haven't realized the answer to your question. Would you like to tell me which piece, for example, so that I can tell you where I drew inspiration from?
Okay, let's see. All right, so I'm looking at your portfolio right now. So, like, this is interesting. You have a couple of these pieces, like the Witch King Character Design Challenge, and this is like a very graphic kind of style, which is interesting, and it kind of is different compared to something like this one, Anima, which is more painterly and has more like depth, Yeah.
So, okay, Anima is a character from my book, so it's something that I have internalized, like, I know this guy.
Yeah.
And I have drawn him like as a kid a lot. I mean, that's funny because a lot of these characters started as children's drawings, and they are still there. They're like just better.
Yeah.
So I draw a lot of inspiration from, as I said, traditional artists. I really like from contemporary artists. I'm really fond of Piotr Jablonski's work, and but then when it comes to graphic style, I actually started teaching a few months ago history of illustration. And while I knew some things about the history of illustration, and I have studied history of art for 3.5 years within architecture school, so I was pretty well versed in that. Actually, by studying history of illustration, I decided to do let's say demo for my students, where I would show them what I wanted them to do within my subject. So I said, okay, I will try to look old school illustrators and try to draw in their style, but also imply my ideas on there. So I looked into Ivan Bilibin, who is a Russian illustrator from the Miriskutsva art movement, which was running alongside Art Nouveau, and is essentially the Russian brand of Art Nouveau. So Ivan Bilibin did these amazing illustrations for Russian fairy tales. And I was looking at his work, and I actually had some of his books as well. When I was in Germany, I bought some of them. So I tried to combine digital with that kind of old school illustration, see what would happen.
Nice.
And that thing happened. And sometimes I just have a very strong idea that, for example, The Witch King is a painting that I actually did over a month, but I wasn't drawing it. I did like 3 lines and I left it.
That's interesting.
I had to teaching to do and marking to do.
Sure.
And then the deadline comes closer, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to finish The Witch King. Just go back to The Witch King. And I do like 3 more brushstrokes, and then I leave it. And then it's one day before the deadline, and I said, okay, I'll draw it.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, I was just going to say, so would you say you work more like in kind of like
spurts or
stages or spurts, or do you kind of jump around a bit from project to project, or just kind of stick one at a time a bit?
So I do have like a lot of things run at the same time. Definitely, I do that, and it's not really helpful. I'm trying to narrow them at least. But I do sometimes make notes at least. So sometimes I have an idea, like the one about the Witch King, but I can't find the time to draw it. So I put some notes, like 1, 2, for example, for the Witch King, it was the hand holding the sword and the flying crown. That was it. And I drew that thing because nobody else had drawn the Witch King as he is presented in the books, where he takes down the hood and there is just a floating crown of fire.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, okay, I can do that. And I put that on paper because I will forget it otherwise, and leave it there. And I actually do a lot with that with my sketchbook. I write down things. I write down my ideas. I sometimes do even a doodle of an idea just so that I don't forget. I will open up a digital file, do something, and might leave it on the side. So I have a lot of unfinished files, and in time I return to them. But sometimes I do the exact opposite, where I like tunnel vision. I'm thinking, okay, I have to do that. I have 2 days. Focus, do it.
Yeah, that's so. I was just going to ask you, because that's an interesting process for me because of about the writing aspect of it. And like, do you tend to come up with ideas through writing, or just more kind of doodle in the sketchbooks?
So I have an example. So there is this city in my book, right? And I don't want to reveal a lot more because it's appearing. That's another book, which I have not published yet. So, but the idea is that I had this idea of the city, that it would be there and it would be in this exact location. The characters would find out about it this way, and they would come in this way, live that way. I had this information there. I knew what my characters would be doing there. So I write the story, and I make a description where they come up, for example, on plateau and see the city down, and they see the sun hitting the domes. And at that point, I'm just writing words that I know will create a nice image. But then I go to draw that. And when I go to the sketching phase and I start drawing that, I might come up with more ideas.
Sure.
And when I'm going to clear up the text, because I never publish something that I have just written, it goes to between 2 or 3 or 4 revisions at times. And an editor will go over it, and my publisher will also read what I've written so that she knows what she's publishing.
Sure.
So there is a lot of change, and there is a lot of feedback in the process. And one feeds the other a lot. So, for example, Anima, which you mentioned, actually in the beginning had a site that was like this. And I was writing about this the whole story, and then at some point I decided to do an actual illustration of this character. And and he had actually 2 scythes, and this thing just wouldn't work. Scythes are immensely heavy, and I started making changes on the design. And at first I was like very stuck to the image I had as a child, but I just started working with that. I came up with this angular weapon that feels like a crook, but is also like a sickle attached to the staff.
Yeah.
So it plays with this guy's a demon. So it plays with the idea that this guy views himself as death, therefore he has a sickle. But he is thinking, but he's also reminiscent of the real death in the book, which is a shepherd. So there are the 2 images of industrial, and not industrial, but let's say post-agricultural society, where people start gathering animals and they're not just picking things from the land, and pro-industrial, and they just come together in this connected thing. But this takes a lot of time in between, so it's not always a quick process. It takes time.
How many books do you have published at this?
2.
2. Nice. And are they just in Greek, or?
So there is a short story collection. One of the stories in there is in English, actually, and one of them was originally written in English. And and the first book from a series I'm writing, which is also published in Greek, but right now it's been translated by a very esteemed translator in Greece, who is also a friend. So I think he's working hard on it right now.
Nice.
And I'm hoping that, when things become a little bit better, I might actually make a break for the UK or the US. And I have also written a story which was accepted in a Kickstarter called short story collection. I just don't know if it's going to be published or not. If it's not, I'm just going to be moving it around. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Stories are versatile.
That's awesome. I think it is important to know how to write as an artist as well. Like you said, there are these thematic things that can transfer over between the imagery and the words. And at the end of the day, too, understanding how to write, I think, will help you be able to perceive prompts a little bit better as well. Because, especially as a freelance illustrator or concept artist, whatever, that you're going to get a prompt from your art director, and you're going to have to be able to analyze that and pick those very fine details apart and be able to apply it to an image. So yeah, I think it's a really good practice, even for people that aren't necessarily as interested, just to kind of try. And the other thing too is it is interesting that you did all of this advertising stuff. Going back to the discussion before, because I was thinking about my past as well, and the things you said about it needing to have that punch to it, and that transitioning back into your illustration work as well. I actually, for quite a while, I think I've talked about this on the streams before, but for quite a while I was doing ads for a robotic pool cleaning company, and I was having to do that really anal work of selecting objects out and putting drop shadows and making sure the text was reading correctly. And it is that sort of graphic design layout stuff that I think really did kind of help push me compositionally as well, because it starts making you think about where everything is placed, as opposed to just doing stuff as you go. So did you have any other takeaways you feel like from the advertising company?
Yeah, I actually remember it's about idea simplicity and idea depth. Because another thing that I learned within advertising, sometimes they would give me a project. Like they would tell me this company needs that. Either write something or work with an artist to make something and see what we can present. And I remember having a brief for a company that I don't want to name, but the idea is that they wanted one graphic shape to sell an idea they were promoting.
Oh, that's interesting.
That was so tough. We worked on it for like 2 or 3 or 4 days just to come up with a shape that would tell multiple stories and get a message across in one read in one effective way.
Interesting.
And that was, and that's the thing. I would go in the group meetings, and I would have this very complicated idea about parallel things and parallel narrations and everything going on. They would tell me, no, we want something that is deeper and sharper. It's like going with a club when they need a rapier, So, and that was actually it actually taught me a lot, both about writing and art, because you need, especially when you take part in competitions, where it's not like you are going to have 15 images to tell your story, or somebody is going to animate what you're making, and all these background informations are going to just seep in. You need to be able to tell that story with one simple idea. Now in illustration, you get the background, so it helps you build on that, because you can get with the initial punch and then go on and go on and on. But if that first hit does not land, you can't tell your story. And it's important to understand that you need people to look at your image, get engaged, and then let them discover it. But yeah, if your idea is too complicated, it won't work. And not because a person might not be a good artist. No, it's because, one image is 1,000 words, but your idea might be more than 1,000 words.
Sure.
So yeah,
that's awesome. Go ahead, Oliver.
No, I was just gonna say as well, because I think when creating images, like I hear time after time, like the story can make a huge difference in terms of like whether it will appeal to the audience, or and if it's not clear, like compositionally, lots of interpretation and your intent could get lost a lot of the time, because I do have I think everyone has different tastes of like what's art to them, and I think it's interesting because concept art is not always about like having that like initial story. For me, it's like it's problem solving, and I think we all have different views on this, but I think it's interesting just to hear from everyone's point of view.
So I want to transition more into your teaching experience as well. So right now, what I don't know if you answered this yet. What class are you teaching, or classes?
I'm teaching literally everything.
Oh, gotcha.
No, not every subject, of course.
Sure.
Subject, but I teach all ages from foundation to master. So I have a full array right now.
Sure.
This semester. Yeah, I am in all semesters, so I try to do my best. I'm teaching different subjects, and from what tasks I have been given, of course, I'm touching only on most areas, really, other than 3D stuff, which is probably my weakest area. I will try probably to learn some 3D during this summer, just because it's a skill and people use it. And I think that even though you might not use it, you need to know it. So I would probably make sure to add that to my skill set. I know a little bit, but it's not
Yeah.
nowhere near enough useful,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Gotcha. So was that a tough transition for you to get into teaching, do you feel, or did it feel pretty natural? Because I know that teaching definitely differs from person to person.
It wasn't too hard, going into class, and I was never nervous with that. That actually came naturally. What gave me trouble was actually giving feedback and giving feedback to students, because you might have students that are average level or on your level, are easy to give feedback, but sometimes you will come up against a student against that is not correct. You will come up with a student come to a student who, sorry, my English, come to a student who might be very good, like very artistically strong, and might be better than you. That happens in art schools. So how do you treat a student that's better than you? How can you look at his work, go beyond the fact that you are awestruck probably or impressed,
Sure.
and think, okay, this still is a student, and they might know drawing, amazing drawing, because drawing, is our selling point. But I need to look beyond the drawing and see where the concept is, what can be improved, how can I give feedback to a person who knows how to draw but might have neglected something else.
Sure.
And the other hard part is students who just come in and might be very inexperienced, so they try to do too many things at the same time, and you need to be able to help them, to tell them, okay, this is good, this is a good start, but focus on this first, move on the next thing later. And I think both of these experiences have to do with how we treat ourselves, because we are completely inexperienced when it comes to some subjects. And I'm pretty sure that if we try to draw something that we're not familiar with at all, we're going to be like an inexperienced artist. Some other parts might feed in the brain, and we might have some practice on our hands, but we are also new to that subject. And being new, you need to prioritize, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I think even to professional artists or not professional artists, looking at each other's work, you can always potentially find something in somebody else's work that just they didn't see or notice or consider. So I'd really advocate for even anybody in our Discord or whatever, like, don't be afraid to give other artists feedback, even if you feel like you're maybe not up to their level, because you might be helping them out. It doesn't mean they necessarily have to take your advice either, but at least you're trying. And from what I've noticed with my stuff as well, because I've been running a mentorship program, is me analyzing other people's works has helped me like really analyze my own work as well. Like, I go back to my own personal pieces and I was like, oh, I just told X mentee to be really thinking about this. Am I thinking about this as much as I'm saying? So yeah, I think that's really helped push me to a next level as well. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
It's really interesting, because I think I learned more art by teaching art than by studying art.
Yeah.
Because you have 1 hour to explain something to a person.
Yeah.
So you better know it well, otherwise the person across you in the room won't understand what you're saying.
Yep.
So yeah, you need to know your stuff well, and it pushed me a lot, like a lot, because I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go in the class, and I shouldn't get embarrassed.
Sure. And going off of that topic, in terms of like still learning, even though you're a teacher, I think Oliver and I talked about, I think I saw also on your Facebook, you've been doing a lot of like figure studies and stuff like that recently. So you want to talk a bit about that, or like your approach or whatever?
Yeah. So I never felt comfortable with anatomy. While I could get some crazy creature or whatever, and I could sketch and I could draw from life, I never felt comfortable with anatomy. Like
Mm.
I would mess up the proportions, I would mess up a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And you avoid it once, you avoid it twice. At some point,
Sure.
you have to face your devils,
Mm-hmm.
So it came as a two-part course. At first, I started going on quick poses,
Mm.
and there was a shop near my place in Greece which was selling sketchbooks for like 15 euros.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what, 15 euros a month is not that much. So I would buy a sketchbook a month and I would fill it with figure studies every month.
Mm.
Every day I would spend half an hour. Now the trick here is that if you spend half an hour on something a day is not too much,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a good habit.
Yeah.
Because if you try to say, okay, I want to learn anatomy, I'm going to open all the books and I'm going to spend 15 days non-stop studying anatomy, no eating, no drinking, only
Yeah.
anatomy, you will learn some stuff, but you will also burn yourself out.
Sure.
But if you make it into a habit, it starts building its own thing and identity. So I stopped that practice after, the quick poses practice after 200 days. I think I've actually managed to go 200 days
Wow.
straight without moving.
That's crazy.
It's not too much, really. You wake up, you do that, and you just go about your day.
Mm.
But the good thing is that you have your sketchbook. So
Mhm.
you look at the previous day and you're thinking, oh, what did I learn yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
And move on.
Mm-hmm.
It's half an hour. That's the thing. Now I'm doing this with exercise. I exercise 20 minutes a day because I can't get into going to the gym and start lifting. That's not me. I can't do
Mhm.
that. But I can do 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So that started happening with with the portrait studies that I uploaded. Last January, I said, okay, I'm starting to understand anatomy better, but I'm still not there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start looking into photography because I really like the work of some photographers
Mm-hmm.
and not Instagram or random people on Facebook which get all these burned photos or all these overly dark photos.
Mm-hmm.
But you get works of photographers who will work carefully with light and color, and you will get to experiment with this stuff through them.
Yeah.
And I started saying, okay, I'm going to put there 1 hour a day.
Mm-hmm.
I have enough hours in the day to be able to do a 1 hour study.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was not quick enough, I'm not a quick artist, it started becoming 1.5 hours, 2 hours. At some point, it reached 3 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. I think I went on for 60 days straight, something like that.
Wow.
And yeah, then that's the thing. If you start doing something for 3 hours a day, it starts not becoming easy to handle because
Sure.
you try to find a 3 hour bracket
Mm-hmm.
instead of a 1 hour bracket or a 20 hour bracket.
Yeah.
And when you live, I live with my girlfriend in Greece. I visit my family. I have teaching to do. I have freelance work to do. And the 3 hour mark is not easy to hold.
Yeah.
So now I have stopped, but I'm trying to bring it in a different way to try to introduce again the 20-minute study or the 1 minute study, but 1 hour study. But
Mm-hmm.
this time I'm moving to environments just to be able to render them efficiently.
Mm.
Because I understand how things go. I have a good understanding of environments, but I'm not good with rendering them. So I want to improve my reading essentially with that 1 hour.
Mm.
And I'm trying to approach it again with the 1 hour limit. And I think just posting it, even if it's bad, especially it's on your profile or Instagram. So it's not like on my portfolio on ArtStation where artists could look me up and they would think, oh, Nikos is shit. No. No, I post it in a place that I don't really care, but it's also like a diary. So
Mhm.
you're saying, okay, I didn't do well today, but it's fine.
Mhm.
I learned something by not doing well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
on and on.
I think that's important though, about like kind of documenting your journey, not only just like for your like self, but also like spark other people to raise interest. And because I noticed that I slowly get more engagement when I do post more regularly, and
Mhm.
like you show your process, and it doesn't, because everyone's at like different stages of learning, and I think it's great to, I always try and encourage to show everyone's process and share more, because it's not always like, because you see these artists at like
Yeah.
God level, and you like you mentioned before, you only see their like final pieces, but the more you get to know them, they make mistakes like all the time, and you only start realizing that until you start watching their process. And
Yeah.
I think it's good.
I also can't speak enough for how important that habit talk is as well, because I think that's where a lot of artists get really freaked out, is they're like, like it feels like there's this huge mountain to climb, but like we said before, it's kind of like if you just kind of like take things step by step and really dedicate yourself every single day to just doing a little bit, all of that is going to add up over time. I've seen so many artists that, they're like, oh, Friday is going to be my day to do all of my artwork. And it's like you said, if you're only working one day a week, and maybe you're working, 8 hours, that's a lot of time, but it's like not consistent. It's really hard to take that much time off in between drawing every single week to remind yourself of all these things. Whereas if you keep yourself loose every day, you do a half an hour to an hour long study, you're like consistently building up that skill level. It's like experience points in a video game, right? You want to keep that consistent until you finally level up, and then you can look back at your old work and really see that progress shift over a period of time. And I think other people are so concerned with either things taking too long or being too quick or whatever as well. And the other thing I'll say on that is just kind of, I hate to say this coming from a place where like I'm a little bit older and have the experience, but you kind of do have to like allow yourself to be okay with the process at a certain point as well. Yeah.
I have been mentioning this to my friends, but I learned, I think I got my most recent art lesson from doing thesis. Because I am horrible at doing thesis, but you have to do it. It's in your house, and you need to be living in the environment. So I was trying to take the whole, pile and just bite through it and wash. And it would take me forever. And then whenever my girlfriend would take care of that, she would finish in like 10 minutes. And I'm thinking, this is not possible. She can't be taking 10 minutes. And I'm spending like 35 minutes on the thesis. I'm doing something wrong. So I started thinking of trusting in the process of doing thesis and making a process to do things. So I started piling the thesis and doing things one at a time. So I was trying to find where I was being blocked. So I would realize that, for example, it would take me forever to put a this, because I would try to find its place so that the pile would be made up again. But if I would break down the pile into smaller piles, and do the dishes first, then the cutlery, then the pots, and then it just builds itself. So you go back to art, and you're thinking, okay, if I try to do the painting all at once, it's going to fail. But if I trust the process and say I'm going to draw first the shapes, then the lights, but with shape theory in mind, then details, then blend them, you can have something within the hour. It's a promise. It's not like witchcraft. It's a promise.
Sure. I think what I've realized as well, talking to a lot of my mentees recently, is like one of the hardest things for, I think, most artists to kind of wrap their head around is color and light, and just like understanding how the stuff works. And I've started saying this thing over and over again, and I didn't used to say it, but now I started thinking this way even when I'm painting myself. And it's almost like considering like painting by numbers, like trying to visualize shapes and planes on an object and analyze which direction are they facing, what color is the light that is like hitting that plane. And at that point, it almost becomes like painting by numbers, because you're not like, trying to analyze everything at once. You're going one step at a time. Oh, this is this color. This is this color. This is angled this way. And really having that understanding of how things work is I think the first most important step to like getting really good. Like I think everybody kind of starts off, they're just like drawing in their sketchbook, having fun, you know. They're kind of trying to draw what they see, but they don't really quite understand it yet. Then you get to this point where you're like, I'm stuck. Like I don't know what I need to do to get better, and that's that point where you really need to, with your studies, be like, okay, when I'm studying, I need to figure out why I'm doing everything I'm doing as best I can. And then things just start clicking, and it gets quicker and quicker from that point. At least in my opinion.
I mean, definitely, speed is a huge issue, and speed is an issue because it gets discussed a lot in the art community. But I think the discussion has been shifting to a correct direction only recently. Because you see all these talented artists out there, and they post these videos, which are, of course, sped up.
Yeah.
And people like...
Yeah.
And you know this is sped up,
Yeah.
but the back of your head tells you, the back of your mind tells you, I need to draw in this bit. Like, you can't draw like that.
Yeah.
You can't draw like that. Nobody draws like that. Not even the artists you are seeing draw like that.
Yeah.
This is sped up, but even if it isn't sped up, and this is a quick artist, the saying that you can't run before you walk, it means something,
Yeah.
And I think that by taking the time to be slower, you can be much quicker, because
I agree.
if I do 3 brush strokes and 2 of them are wrong, the time it will take me to correct these 2 brush strokes is far more than doing just 1 brush stroke and wait to think for the next one.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And that's what you see a lot with younger artists that are still trying to figure stuff out, is like they're not
Me.
Yeah, it's like
I'm the odd one.
it's like not taking your time to understand why you're doing the things you're doing. You're kind of just like on autopilot, and it's like you can't get into autopilot until you already understand stuff, because then it is just like you already know where to put all the paint, more or less. Like, I don't know, even the best artists in the world are still like tweaking things as they render and blah blah blah, but it's kind of like the more you can get right up front, the less headache you're going to have later on. And it goes back to that saying of like, you can't polish a turd, right? So it's in your best interest to always make your steps proper and understand what you're doing. And like you said, Nikos, it's going to be just so much faster for you in the long run if you are taking your time. It sounds counterintuitive, but it definitely works. So
it's more enjoyable too,
I agree. Yeah.
Because
then you're not annoyed.
Yeah, you're not annoyed. You're not running against the clock.
Yeah.
Because when there are so many things you need to get right to create a good piece, that if you put time into it, isn't it just making it harder? So take out time out of the equation. Focus on getting the things that you know there, and it immediately becomes, first off, a more enjoyable experience, because you start applying the things that you know. And I don't know a single human who doesn't enjoy doing the things that they know.
Yeah.
So,
Do you listen to music when you work?
Sorry, say it
Or
again,
anything?
Oliver.
Does Nikos listen to music or anything like that when he works? Yeah.
well, I do. I also put on podcasts. Sometimes I lately have started hanging out with a group of other artists who just work on their pieces, who are all Greek, and so we're having a slow chat, but at the same time I'm mostly working. But it's this good. It's a very positive group, and I really enjoy working with them. So it creates a good vibe where you can work in. And I don't like saying that, but you need to be, I think, in a good state. If you're too stressed or too angry and you try to draw, all this tension is just going to come out of your hand, really.
Yeah.
So I think even before you draw, if you take, a few minutes, get the tension out there. Do you want to exercise a bit? Do you want to work around a bit? Do you want to draw circles? Do you want to shut everything down for a few minutes, take a few breaths, and then get on your piece? It can actually make a world of difference. like a world of difference. And some days you might not be able to paint, and that's fine.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of students can take away because, like, for me, I realized just like you mentioned with the warm-ups and the circles, I think just doing half an hour of that, like, instantly improves all the rest of the day of my drawing when I'm not straight away going in as soon as I wake up because, yeah, just like, yeah, because I notice a huge difference when I'm a bit more relaxed and like not against the time or pressure. It does make a difference. But yeah, how do you deal with like kind of the mentality of having to like work on like multiple projects, or do you find a way to balance that? Yeah.
So it's a deadline issue and it's a pain issue. So if somebody is paying, they get priority. If somebody, because I'm doing some work for free as well, and no, I'm not doing commissions for free for anybody listening. That I might do something for a friend for free, for example, or I might do some work that is mine for free. So this work, of course, since it doesn't get paid and it won't help me out, and it doesn't have a deadline most of the times, it doesn't get first. So it's always deadline, the first that needs to be delivered, of course, but also the one that's also paint gets priority. If it's not paint and there is no deadline, it gets pushed, and it helps. And I mean, I don't have too many projects running right now. I have 2 book illustrations, which is fine, and there is a long deadline for those, and these are great projects. Really, I think that on one of them I probably have done some of my best work. So I'm looking forward to finishing it at some point and getting it out there. But yeah, that actually it's first teaching work because I'm a teacher, but then work that has a short deadline, long deadline, and so on and so on. And of course, it's also opportunity, right? Because some projects might offer you an opportunity. So you might need to give them that extra bit. For example, let's say you have, I don't know, let's say you have a client from, not an indie company, let's say an indie company, yeah, that hasn't given you a deadline and they're telling you, hey, I need this, don't stress yourself, or you might need to stress yourself because you have a deadline. And you have this other opportunity where you might be doing an art contest that will give you a lot of visibility. And of course, art contests are for free, so you need to dedicate very specific time on this. If you spend like 4 weeks on an art contest that is not, you're not submitting like some amazing piece or whatever, but you're just doing a small illustration, you're not helping yourself. But if you can spend 2 days, let's say 2 days on that, 2 working days, of course, not 2 whole days, but 2 working days on an art contest that will give you some time, you can push it to the front sometimes, especially if the deadline is urgent, or it will get posted on social media and a lot of people will see you. Now, I know this can sound negative because some people would come to you and tell you, hey, I have a large social media following or whatever. No, this is a commission and it's not the same. You do the contest as a contest in an advertised contest, and it's your choice. You don't get people to tell you what to do, and you do it because you enjoy it. It's because I know that by saying that I'm immediately giving feed to people coming in and saying, "Oh, I am your friend. Do art for free." No, doing art for free. I do art for free on very rare occasions. I would do for my family, for my friends. I would do art for free for charity. Yes, I have done a piece for charity reasons. I would do that because it means something to me. But that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be doing free. And as artists, we need to be aware of that because people would try to
take advantage.
Get work for free.
Yeah.
We had a discussion actually on the podcast last week about that, didn't we, Nick? About commissions, and so I think it's an important topic that I think more students should be aware of, because I do see a lot of even in my peer groups, like they not know how to charge. They don't know, like they do, £6 commissions or $5 commissions, and
Yeah.
it's super low. It's like, how do you?
$5 commission. I just did it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like 30, 20 for some people. It's like, it's like years of experience and skill go into that hard work and learning the skills. So I think it is important.
It's just learning how to advocate for yourself and learning how to leverage your experience to get paid for what you feel like you're worth, and be honest with yourself about, like you're saying, Nikos, like, what kind of work can I take on for free if I wanted to? Like, is it going to be good for me in the long run? And if not, kind of stick to your guns and make sure you are charging and making sure you're looking out for yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of like, I hate to say it, but it's like nobody's really going to look out for you but yourself, right? So you kind of really need to take care of yourself in that respect.
Yes, and I think what you said there about being honest with yourself, it's a very tough thing, because it goes both ways. Because if I tell somebody to be, not even an artist, be honest with yourself, immediately the first thought that comes to mind is that you need to face your negatives. So it has a negative pronoun, it has a negative feel to it. Being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
It's cathartic but not pleasant. However, being honest with yourself can also be pleasant, because it means that you appreciate your strengths as well.
Sure.
So when you're charging, you're not charging for your negatives, you're charging for your positives.
Exactly.
You're charging for what you can do, not what you can't do.
That's a
so
really
you
good
don't
way to put
go
it.
there and remove dollars from your work, or euros or pounds or whatever you want to charge, because you are not perfect with anatomy. No, you charge well because you are very good at composition. You charge very good because you can build a scene well. You charge very well because you have the ability to visualize what the other person describes you, without spending 15 emails and getting 100 descriptions. You charge for your storytelling abilities. So your anatomy might not be perfect.
Yeah. The other thing too to be thinking about too is, like, are you good with deadlines? Like, that's a lot of things that people that are good with deadlines wouldn't realize, how many people are not great with deadlines. So it's kind of like you can use that as a strength when negotiating with a client, and just be like, look, I'm going to get your stuff done on time. It's going to be quality, and it's going to be from me. Like, that's the way you kind of have to promote yourself, and be just honest about all of that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, and you should be charging for that, really, because when one of our tutors was teaching us, Nigel, at school, he would always say, and I have heard it not only from Nigel but from many people, companies especially would hire you for being two of these three things: efficient, pleasant to be around, and good at your work. Even if you're not perfect at your work, if you're pleasant to be around and punctual, they will hire you. If you are pleasant to work around and you are good with your work, maybe they will let some of the efficiency go by, because you offer the rest of the stuff. But you can't ignore that efficiency is one of your hiring factors, and people would pay you for that. And essentially, in a world that's built with so many deadlines and so much time, talking about time, essentially, being able to work within that is quite the skill.
Yeah. It's like that time is money sort of expression, like, actually means something, especially if you're working in studio or something like that, and they're kind of expecting these turnarounds from you. It's like, the longer you take, it's like the more they're technically paying you per piece, because your salary is based on, kind of how many hours per week you're expected and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, there is something to be thinking about with that.
Yeah, I mean, I have no studio experience, but I get immediately what you're saying. That there are many levels to this work, and not all artists are fit for each level. Not because they're not good, but it has to do with the person.
Hmm.
Some people might work better with a company that has tight deadlines because it maybe
Yeah.
makes them feel concentrated, but other people might get stressed over that.
Hmm.
Both are fine, but you need to find yourself there. And as Nick said, be honest with yourself. It's not just about what you want, but also what you can do. And that goes both in limiting the things that you can't, but also expanding in the things that you can.
Mm.
So, yes, you might not be able to flourish, let's say, in a studio environment, but you might be an amazing freelance artist.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's definitely
One that
something to
is
think
far
about.
greater than any studio artist if they are left in their own devices than
Hmm.
the tight deadline environment.
Yeah, for
No,
sure.
be honest. Know yourself.
Nice.
Awesome. Cool. All
That's
right.
good.
Well, I think we're a little bit over the hour mark.
Yeah.
Oliver, do you have any other questions?
I oh no, I can't think of one at the moment. But like, there's so many dying questions and conversations I'd love to have. But probably another date. Yeah.
Another day at time.
Yeah.
And Nikos, we shared your art station. Do you have any other social media platforms you'd like us to shout
I
out,
do
or
have my
you'd like to
Instagram,
shout
but
out?
it's really an art dump, so I
What?
can give it to you.
Yeah. What?
That'd be good.
Let me get the link. Give me a second.
Yeah, I can post that in the chat, and then I can also post that in the description as well.
Nice.
Just get that. It's funny how unintuitive Instagram is for computers, isn't it?
It really is. Actually, let me see. Maybe I can look it up really quick.
I have put it on the Discord chat.
Okay. Perfect. All right, I will share that as well with your many-lettered Greek last name. Awesome.
I have thought so many times of making, some kind of nickname, but it never works with me. So I just go with the full surname and leave it there, and
Now,
whoever can have it.
I think mine's a little bit shorter than yours, and people still have a ton of trouble with mine as well. So I definitely feel the pain. But yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Nikos, for joining us. This was a really awesome chat. I think the people that were here really got something out of it, and this will be up on YouTube for anybody else who came in late and wanted to see the full thing. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, keep on drawing, everybody.
Thank you very much for having me. It was amazing, and I really enjoyed the talk. Thanks a lot.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Perfect.